She screamed that my tractor was ruining her evening yoga time. Then she had the guts to call a tow truck on it right when I needed to plant my crops. I was on my knees in the dirt, racing to get everything planted in 2 weeks before the rain came. That's when this lady Diane, wearing a sweater way too clean for farm work, chained my family's 25-year-old tractor to a tow truck like it was some random bike left on the street. That tractor wasn't just a piece of metal. It was like the heart of our family farm that's been here for 5 generations. Diane had no idea she just made a farmer really, really mad, and I was about to do something she'd never forget. She came, rolling in like a big storm from the city, loud and unwanted. A shiny new HOA sign showed up at the corner of Willow Bend and Route 17, bolted right to my great-grandpa's oak tree on land that wasn't even hers. She called it Green Haven Estates. I called it a silly dream. Out here, we've got big farm machines, goats, and tough people, no HOAs. Diane must have thought my farm fields were some fancy vineyard vacation spot. Her first visit happened early in the morning at 6:47 as I was hauling compost to the north field. She stood by my dirt driveway with a clipboard in her hand and a reusable coffee mug steaming, looking at my pile of manure like it was against the law. "I'm Diane Whitaker, president of Green Haven Homeowners Association," she announced, like that was supposed to mean something to me. "My land has belonged to the Carter family since 1898. She talked and talked about some shared pretty-looking rule book, saying my tractor parked for a few minutes by the fence while I switched to my planting machine broke this peaceful community feeling. I told her that her HOA was made up and my tractor had more right to be here than her store-bought flowers. She gave me a fake smile, said she'd fix it, and left. I didn't think much about it until the tow truck came rumbling in. It was an old, beat-up truck that wasn't good enough for the job. The driver, scratching his head, came up to me as I was putting gas in my tractor. "Did you call for a tow?" he asked. I pointed to Diane waving her arms by the mailbox like she was trying to land an airplane. She marched over and I yelled, "Touch my equipment again and your SUV's next for the manure pile." She gasped and grabbed her necklace, saying I had threatened her. The driver wasn't sure what to do, but Diane bullied him into trying anyway. He hooked the tractor's back axle. The cable got tight, made groaning sounds, and went nowhere. My tractor stood there like a stubborn metal mule. My cousin Nate, watching from the shed, started filming. Diane screamed that he needed her permission. Nate shot back that she was trespassing on private land. The tow truck left, defeated. Diane stormed up demanding I move that eyesore or face trouble. I tipped my hat, looked at her SUV parked in soft, tilled dirt, and grinned. Pulling chalk. From my pocket, I circled her car in the soil. "What's that?" she snapped. "Marking your spot for this season's crop," I said. Her face twisted up in horror. I called Nate to grab the sprinkler hose and dragged out a sack of zinnia seeds. Diane ranted about vandalism and threatened to call the cops, but neighbors rolled up with lawn chairs. Rural gossip travels fast. I scattered seeds over her SUV's hood, being careful not to scratch it. Nate sprayed water on the dirt around her tires. A neighbor plopped a garden gnome by her bumper. It was petty, poetic chaos. Diane lost it, yelling about lawsuits, HOA rules, and soil misuse. I asked which part of her fake rule book banned car planters. She had no answer. She called 911. I knew the dispatcher. My Aunt Clara. Deputy Sam Brody showed up, looked around the scene, and asked what I was up to. "Planting flowers in a new steel pot," I said with a straight face. He turned to Diane, who waved printouts of some online HOA template. "Ma'am, got proof this land's yours or a legal tow order?" Sam asked. She didn't. "You're trespassing on a working farm," he said. "Lucky he's just using seeds." Diane's face went bright red. Her SUV's tires were now stuck in wet soil. Rookie mistake parking on plowed ground. The first tow guy was long gone. Sam helped her call a heavy-duty tow. Neighbors sipped iced tea, debating which flowers looked best on her SUV. Some offered to bring matching pots. Diane slumped on her hood, calling allies and muttering about her board. There was no board, just Diane's crazy dream of ruling this dirt. The second tow took hours. Nate's video of the mess hit a local farm forum titled City Lady vs. Tractor. It exploded, 1,500 views in hours, with slow motion of Diane's crazy meltdown. As evening came and my tractor roared back to work, I knew this war was just starting. Diane wasn't done, and I had plenty of soil to fight with. Next morning, a drone buzzed my barn like a giant bug. Nate ran in yelling, "She's back with Air Scouts!" Diane stood at her made-up HOA line, now sporting 3 glossy signs. Green Haven Estates, private community, no farm vehicles. One was nailed to my century-old fence post. Another was taped to my mailbox, just begging for a crowbar. She'd gotten help. Evelyn, a stern woman in sunglasses clutching a notebook like a weapon. Evelyn, I'd learn, was Diane's rule enforcer, a former parking meter lady with a grudge against chaos. They were a duo from hell. Diane's HOA fantasies paired with Evelyn's rulebook, probably printed at a copy shop. Diane pointed at my silo, dictating to Evelyn, who wrote like she was busting a crime ring. I was now breaking new rules. Farming. In view of roads, stinky barn smells, and machinery blocking pretty views. I hollered, "Missed the cowbell curfew!" Nate laughed from the loft. Evelyn eyed my chickens like they were smuggling something. Diane filmed for her HOA page, 42 followers I checked, bragged about finding me. I asked what law gave her power on my legal land. She waved beat-up maps, muttering about zoning overlays. Clueless but stubborn. I drove to town, meeting Sheriff Brody. He'd seen the video. The dash cam clip was a hit on cop forums. Diane had filed 4 complaints: trespassing, farm vandalism, community defiance, and drone harassment. Brody chuckled. Defiance isn't a charge unless you're starting a militia with hay. Her signs and stickers on my fence were harassment, he said, and he wrote it down. I grabbed boundary stakes and headed home, ready to teach Diane about rural law with a shovel and sprinklers. Her SUV was deeper in my field, surrounded by new stakes. Diane was tossing lavender seeds like a wannabe saint, enhancing property values, she claimed. I reminded her there was no HOA. Evelyn, now in a safety vest, yelled through a megaphone about illegal watering in visible sheds. "Enough," said Nate. I hauled hay bales, a scarecrow, and Diane's flyer as a cape, and millet seeds. We dumped them at her boundary, ignoring her cries of illegal. I asked for her rulebook. She had none. Then, with Brody's nod and advice from Cousin Laya, a county clerk, I turned her SUV into a garden. We laid weed cloth, built flower beds around her bumper, and planted cosmos and ivy. Nate ran water lines. Ducks waddled over, sitting on her mirrors. It was a living protest. Diane emailed news outlets wanting sympathy, but farmers' blogs ran with HOA lady versus farmland headlines that made fun of her as a suburban Napoleon. I gave interviews by her flower-framed SUV, preaching rural rights. Soilgate trended. Teens sold "Don't Tow My Tractor" t-shirts. Diane sued, not a warning, a full lawsuit, defamation, property damage, floral emotional distress. Laya nearly choked, laughing. We countersued. Equipment theft attempt, trespassing, harassment, fake HOA fraud. Evidence piled high. Videos, maps, Brody's reports. Diane held an HOA meeting in her driveway. Only Evelyn showed, munching granola. Diane's flyers called my farm agro-terrorism. Nate framed one. Then we found out her real plan. Lobbying to rezone our farms for strip malls and smoothie shops, gutting the valley. My zoning board pal Joe tipped me off. Diane's plans targeted my land for fancy lofts. I rallied neighbors at the old depot hall, sharing her rezoning packet. Fury spread. Sister Gomez vowed to bring his mariachi band to fight. We formed Keep Our Fields with petitions and town hall plans. Laya dug up 60 years of land records. Nate posted Diane's ruler measuring antics online. Fan art of her battling giant zinnias went viral. Diane's HOA page ranted about rural stagnation. A blog exposed her past HOA expulsions for shrub vigilantism. At the zoning meeting, Diane pitched her yoga and latte utopia with foam board flair. I countered with a video reel. Her toe fail, chicken rants, field tantrums. Laughter roared. I handed over signatures and maps, proving her claims baseless. Pave sidewalks, not communities, I said. The board killed her plan unanimously. Diane froze. Evelyn patted her like it was awake. Cheers erupted, tractor-shaped cookies passed around. Diane wasn't done. Dawn brought unmarked trucks, men with chainsaws and stakes, citing a work order from Diane for aesthetic clearing. No permits, just her name. I called Brody. The crew scattered. We added floodlights. Small sabotages followed. Cut hoses, trampled. Crops, tipped bins. Blurry figures haunted our footage. Diane had a crew, paid or brainwashed. We held a zinnia stand rally, food, music, patrols. Neighbors took night shifts. A hunter brought dogs. Sabotage stopped. I built the Field of Defiance, an arch over her SUV, vines weaving, plaques telling her saga. Tourists snapped pics. A gnome in a suit joined the scene. Diane sued the county, claiming farmer collusion. It flopped. A national news crew featured our fight, sparking a rural rights wave. The county banned fake HOAs and passed farm protections.